I've been working for many years on this installation. I call it the long string instrument. It has evolved over the years. It occupies a very large space here at the festival, 35 meters. And strangely, that huge distance is the range of the cello. So, but, so you wonder, well, why go to that much trouble if it produces the same, range as a cello? The reason is that the timbre is unique, and what I work with are overtones. And this, because of the way I'm playing it, which is I'm bowing the string along the length instead of across like you would on a cello. So that is, it's called the longitudinal mode, and the string vibrates in a different way. You hear a lot of motion in the high frequencies as I walk. Every string instrument functions in the same way. You would call it a spectrum along the string length. The string vibrates in various modes at once and produces compound tones. It's just that with my instrument, these are very distinctly played, kind of bell-like sounds as I pass along these subdivisions of the string length. That's the nature of my composition, is all based around this, the phenomena, that happen, with these, I would call it events, along the string length as I walk. And that's really what my compositions are based around, pretty much, is that.
Ellen and I met about 9 years ago in the music scene in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we've been collaborating ever since in many different contexts. And this has been, I think, one of our kind of breakthroughs to create this piece. I certainly feel that way because working as a cellist and coming from a more classical background, that whole system of tuning and of approach to harmony is very different. And so as she was mentioning, the whole tuning of notes according to these pure proportions of the strings was very foreign to me in the beginning. And so it really sounds out of tune to the equal temperament of classical music. So that took a long time to shift my awareness and shift my ear. And now with this extensive research that we've done, and I've also diagrammed the harmonics and created charts to help myself understand how these harmonics repeat on the string and how they sound. Oh, and I can show. This is a chart that I drew up. It's still rather in progress, but so if you imagine this is the top of the cello and this part is the bridge, so if you divide the string in half, this wave will produce twice the frequency of the string. And then there's a wave here that's dividing the string into 3 sections, so that produces a fifth, and then so on. So you divide it into 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. And I usually work right now up to 13. If you get higher, it's very difficult to play the notes and they don't sound as easily. So, already you can see that's a lot of information, a lot of notes. And we've, really tried as hard as we can to be precise about, okay, where are those notes and what are their frequencies? And how far do they deviate from the equal temperament? So it's sort of like a remapping of the whole territory of the pitches. And so another big step is that Ellen has created a MIDI sample of both her instrument and of all of these notes on the cello. So suddenly what has seemed like very abstract and difficult to organize, we have these really new tools to compose with. So we've both been able to use the keyboard to compose sections, but to hear what those pitches are. And so I feel like our score is quite composed, like you were asking earlier if it's part improvised, part composed. It's really quite detailed, and even each section is a little bit open, but we've really made a big step into defining a new sound world.
One of my major inspirations has been Alvin Lucier. He's an American artist who's been teaching at Wesleyan University in Connecticut, but he's been very influential in contemporary American, I would say, like sound art or composition, moving toward the physical side of things. And I feel that I really don't fit into any of these boxes. And as a matter of fact, when you think of a career and like trying to like place your work somewhere and just looking for opportunities, I'm thinking, well, do I belong in a sound art exhibit? But not really, not really. I'm a performer. I create time-based pieces. It requires, me or a performer to activate what I call an instrument. It's a musical instrument. It's not just, a sound art installation. It has a degree of, I've been aiming for a degree of sophistication, on the level, hopefully, of any other stringed instrument. That's what I'm aiming toward. And also the body of work, the language, the kinds of articulation required in playing it. I'm aiming for a sophisticated level on that end as well. So it's really music, and I'm a composer. I would say there's research, a lot of research, and I don't know if the camera wants to take a little picture of, this is background research on the harmonics on the 4 strings of the cello. And so we're, what Theresa is doing is working to extend beyond classical technique to locate the more extended harmonics. It's traditional to have the perfect fifth, maybe the major third, but it doesn't go beyond that. And there's just like 1 or 2 positions where those are played. And what we're doing, these actually occur, multiple locations on the string length. And then what's also I find interesting is that when the harmonic is located, and then you press down at that location, you also get what's called a just interval, or a pure proportionate interval. And so I work in just intonation, which is based on proportions and numeric ratios, and so it's like it's a way or a method for a string player to get those the tones in the scale that I'm working in. It's kind of an approach to take. So there's all this like research, and then Theresa has composed some segments. We have like kind of a container that Theresa has created, harmonic container for our entire performance. And then within that, there are segments which she or I have composed another layer. And then there's, a degree of improvisation in timings, or say, we have select a few notes and then work with those. We do that. Yeah.
Well, I think I never felt myself as a classical musician. Actually, we were speaking before, I was as a designer before. I was working in design, and through that world got exposed to more conceptual art, performance art, and experimental music. So I feel more at home in this world where we're kind of exploring new modes and new ways of looking at things. As far as feeling at home, I think it's always changing, but that's where I feel at home.
It has ended up that it has been important for me to be, but my intention is to really share it with others. I've done a little bit of outreach with other people playing the instrument with me, over the years, and I really intend, as I age, really to bring more people in. I hope to, have the instrument have a life, that continues. Yeah. Really, what I've been trying to do, I'm kind of a private person, and it's like I've been working on refinement, and so it's like I just want to be like alone in the room and like trying things. And so, it's this kind of like a time management thing, how do you, as far as like public sharing and development, private?
No, I think it changes. Yeah, and I definitely feel with this piece we've found a great balance because we have these tools. You see, I can understand better the system of harmony that Ellen's using, and she can understand better the system of harmony that's available on my instrument. And so I feel like it's been a very, very productive kind of collaboration in that sense. And like she said earlier, I created a container for this whole piece as far as ways the structure can change. But within that, we've each put in, little modules. So it's, I feel like, a really great flow. Yeah.
I'm more drawn to acoustic sound because acoustic, there is complexity in acoustic resonances that I feel are more beautiful because of the complexity, because electronics can, it starts with a sine wave, which is like a very, very clear and simple, kind of sound. And these days, as electronics becomes more and more sophisticated, well, there's beautiful analog, synthesizers as well, but, there's a greater ability to, it's just because of the resolution has become more and more fine. It's getting closer and closer to acoustic sound, and so I feel that, I don't know. I'm interested in processing and stuff. It's like you say, it's like, for me, it has to be musical. It can't just do it just to do it, but it just has to kind of make sense with the sensibility and everything.
Well, I really feel that both acoustic and electronic work is just as, valid. There's amazing electronic music being composed and artists who are really utilizing that material in a beautiful way. My personal preference is also with the acoustic sound, just because I feel closer to that. I've always felt drawn to that. And now that I'm starting to use a little bit more of electronics, my approach is to do what I can't do just acoustically. And so for this piece, it's a very simple idea of simply really looping myself so that I'm multiplying. So it's almost like having a cello sextet or something like that. You know, and we've even envisioned performing this piece with actually multiple instruments. So right now the electronics are just allowing me to create a sound beyond a solo instrument, but it's still, what you hear is amplified cello. It's not really processed that much. I am looking for not new, but I think alternative or a personal approach to the sound that comes from the instrument. Because with the traditional way of playing, there's a certain tone that's a very kind of classical tone. And I'm trying to move away from that in almost like this very subtle way, in the sense of like not using a lot of vibrato, getting like the pureness of just the harmonics and bowed pitches, and kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier of going deeper and deeper and deeper into the string, because I discover so much. There's so much there. I mean, all of this is already there. A string does this automatically, but to find it and to understand it and to use it is kind of like this non-ending research and fun, you know. So I feel like I'm trying to create a sound that is, I think of it as like a natural sound. It's like going back into the natural sound. I don't know if that makes sense.
From time to time, I have gotten tired. I mean, I've done this for 30 years. So, but I would say that, you know, I think in the creative life that is kind of like a cycle. And I think that or no one ever asks, you know, Yo-Yo Ma, have you tired of playing the cello? Will you move on to a different instrument now? I get that question all the time because my instrument is, I mean, perhaps because it's unique or, you know, but for me, I see an endless potential. And yeah, my attention has ebbed and flowed, and what usually happens when I lose interest is I have a new technical development that then inspires me again along the way, and that's been fantastic. Last year I rebuilt my resonator boxes. I had to take classes and learned woodworking, and I found that I got results from this that I don't think a standard instrument builder would get, because I had the passion for it, I cared for it, I had the ear for what I want. And I hand carved those resonator boxes and tuned them. I learned things about that. And then just now, this is our first concert where the clips, the little tuning clips, those are made out of bronze. I just had those made, and they produce a warmer tone than things I had designed a couple of years ago. So, you know, there's just like little things like technical developments. But one wonderful thing about this installation is the length of this room, because I don't often get to work in 30 meters. And that's great. It's like a 3-octave range. So it has a more like, there's a way of voicing an orchestral kind of presence, you know, that I can work with here.
One really beautiful experience we had playing at the Cornell University in New York was that they have a very well-known ornithology lab, which is like the study of birds. And they have a huge database, and you can access it online, of bird sounds and also other animals, but largely birds, that they've recorded all over the world. And they had us a little tour at the center, and we were listening to animals. And it was really, really moving, because the sounds, and we're hearing some of these pigeon sounds, but the sounds that animals make too, so reflected and mirrored a lot of what we are working with in contemporary music. And I speak also from the improvised music world, where a lot of instrumentalists are exploring the abstraction of their instrument and noises and sounds that aren't connected to the traditional way of playing. When I hear these animal sounds, it almost makes sense that what we're doing is just sounding. We are just sounding. And whatever meaning it has, like hearing the animals, it kind of had this feeling that it made sense. And some of these sounds are amazingly like electronic music. They were bugs, and this bug playing the twig that it sits on, or a seal in the water, just creating this amazingly, this tone it's like electronic music.